My name is Kathryn Janicek. I am going to talk to you about a training that I sent out to my email list. So if you're not on my email list, please sign up at kathrynjanicek.com. The email was about when to not listen to the people who surround you. And if you aren't already watching, I mean, maybe you don't have time for this, but my one guilty pleasure lately has been The Crown on Netflix. And I will say that a couple weeks ago, my friend Jenny Walther, who works at Chicago Tribune, who was in my dorm at Marquette University, she messaged me and she said, you need to watch episode 5 of season 2. When you get there, you're going to love it because you're a public speaking trainer and you would just love it. So when I got to episode 5, and please comment below if you watch The Crown and if you've seen season 2, episode 5 yet, because you'll know what I'm talking about. But in episode 5, it joins Queen Elizabeth as a young woman, as a young leader of the church and state, of the Church of England and obviously the country. And she is dealing with, it's a new era. It's after the war. She still has the same kind of advisors her dad did. So think about it. The same people who are writing speeches for her father are now writing speeches for a young woman who is leading the country at a very different time. The war changed a lot of things, but the monarch is kind of still stuck because you still have the same kind of speeches that are being produced and being delivered. And the queen doesn't write her own speeches, so they're not in her voice. She ends up giving a speech that is completely tone deaf to what's going on, but again, it's being written by her inside crowd. The people who are, to be quite honest, older white men. They're writing for a younger woman. They're not in touch with the audience. They don't know the voice of the commoner. They don't know what the commoner is looking for, what they're talking about, what they need to hear from their queen at that moment and that time. And so the speech goes terribly. And then she gets some criticism from a newspaper editor who is a lord. And she listens to the criticism after a while, and she changes some things. So the training we can get, the executive training that we can all learn from this episode of The Queen, is that it's not always great to listen to your team of advisors because you're all kind of talking the same language, you're seeing the same stuff, you're not all going to have a real feel for what's going on out in the world and in your audience. So sometimes it's good to have someone else come in and give you a take of what does your image really look like? What does your branding look like? Is it speaking to the audience that you're trying to actually get? How can you do a couple tweaks in order to possibly reach new audiences? So these are all very important things, but and unfortunately it means sometimes bringing on an advisor, an outside advisor. And it's not that your team, it's not that your staff isn't awesome. I mean, you hired them, right? But sometimes our staffs tell us what they think we want to hear because we hired them and they want you to like them. So your staff might be telling you, Joe, you look great. That suit's awesome. Speech was awesome. It was amazing. You totally had the crowd. Or Judy, color on you was terrific. You really knew how to work the crowd. It was awesome. But you might not hear the stuff that you really need to hear, which might be, gosh, if we really would have maybe had this moment in the speech up to the top, or maybe we really are not reaching our audience. Maybe we need to write with more compassion. Maybe you need to smile more. Whatever it is, little tweaks can make a huge difference. So sometimes you might not even know what will reach your audience. You may be working, you're working diligently all the time and you don't even know how great you are or how great the services are that your company is doing. I have trained a lot with law enforcement, and law enforcement, I'd ask them like, what are you proud of? What's been amazing that you've done lately? And they don't brag. They might not tell you that they've saved someone from a lake or they reunited a family with their kid or their dog or whatever it is. So law enforcement won't always tell you, because they're not thinking about that was really amazing. Or a nurse might not tell you how amazing they are because they just feel like it's part of their job, right? So I'll give you an example. I have a client who I've asked her a lot of questions, and she's told me what she feels is her bio. But recently I asked her some questions like, were you ever the first? You know, do you feel like you were a trailblazer somewhere? You know, and I asked her some specific questions, and I got some really good stuff out of her, because she didn't really think how amazing it was, the fact that she was, for example, and I'm looking to my notes that I texted myself, she was the only black female in her surgical residency class. And it went on and on and on. She was the first and only black female surgeon on staff at one hospital, and the first female black surgeon at another hospital, and went on and on and on. But she's never thought to write those things in her bio, or she's never thought to bring that up when it comes to pitching media, or in her pitching public speaking engagements, you know, paid speaking engagements. So sometimes it takes an outside advisor to get that nugget that's really going to sell you. So it's just something to consider. And if you found any value in this, please share it, because I'd like to help more people. If you want to sign up for my emails, you can do that at kathrynjanicek.com.